So this is a flask. So your flask is what you're going to put your denture in. Okay, so you have to actually trim this down to make it fit. So you want to get it as small as you can without going through the base, so it doesn't take up too much room. Also got to get rid of any undercuts. Nice and small.
Yeah.
And it's going to sit in there in that half nicely.
And it's sealed at the bottom, near at the sulcus.
Because I don't want this to take too long, I want it to set really quick. So this is slow.
Yeah.
So this is going to make my plaster set very fast. You want some plaster. So when you're doing partial jobs, you would probably make your plaster a little thinner because you've got to go up and down around all the saddles and the sections. But when you're doing full jobs, you can have it pretty thick. Okay, so you fill up your bottom half with your plaster, and in goes your denture. Okay, so then you've got to make this nice and neat with no undercuts, because if you have undercuts in it, you won't be able to separate the two halves. Oh, yikes. Okay. That's reasonably set already. Okay, so you want a nice transition between the model and the edge of the flask with no undercuts and no gaps. So you can either do this with your finger, or you can do it sometimes with a brush.
Oh yeah.
Don't forget to flatten off your base so that it sits flat. So the smoother, the easier the transition. Get it all nice and smooth. Get any excess plaster off anywhere. You then make sure that your lid fits, okay? Because if you've got plaster sitting up here, sometimes this lid won't sit on properly. So you've got to make sure that it's fully sitting down properly. You've also got to make sure if you've got a really big high denture, if they come up too high, you can have trouble with the height. So there are two different types of flasks. So this one is an upper, so it's even pretty much both sides. A lower flask is a lot deeper at the base. So often you'll be able to put the bigger dentures in the lower one. So now from here we're going to dry it off. Now we're going to paint that plaster with Vaseline because we want to be able to pull this apart. So we want to be able to separate the two halves. You've got to make sure you get down into all the little holes, but you've got to be careful you don't paint your denture too. If you get on your denture, the worst thing that will happen is you'll have like lines. So it'll ruin your wax up, basically.
Right.
And now we're going to, what we call top it up. We're going to put that top lid on and we're going to fill it with stone.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to use 50-50, so half plaster, half stone.
Okay.
Because you need it a little bit harder and you need it a bit smoother around the wax so that it comes out nice and smooth and it has your shapes, and because remember, this wax on the outside is what's going to take the shape of your acrylic. Okay, so if that doesn't stay nice, then your acrylic, the end result's not going to be very nice either. So we normally use half plaster, half stone. Now you make this mix a little bit thinner. You don't want it too thick. Then you want to make sure that you don't get any bubbles, okay? You don't want any bubbles around this wax area, because obviously if you get bubbles, then it's not going to look the same and you're going to have big bits of acrylic everywhere. So you get your two fingers and you rub it. So you rub it around the teeth and you rub it all around the wax. So see, it gets in all the little gaps. And we put our lid on.
No shortcuts.
And then we fill it up. So you've got to vibrate because obviously you don't want bubbles.
Yeah.
And we put the lid on. Oh, we maybe put the lid on. Okay, we maybe not. Oh, there we go. Okay, so you're going to make sure it's all squished down properly, because if it lifts, you're going to change the dimension of your denture. So you've got to make sure that there's no expansion, so you've got to have those flasks sitting together properly, the top and the bottom. And we wash it off. Normally you just use a toothbrush. And as we know, that takes about 45 minutes to set. So we're going to pop it back in the clamp, so the clamp will actually hold it firm. And so when the plaster does set, if there is any expansion, the clamp should stop it from opening. Okay, so then that sits for about an hour until we do the next part.
Okay, excellent. So this is the break time.
Break time.